What is up, guys? It's Troy at the Full Setup here, back with another video for you, and today we are taking a look at the $200 Beacn Killer. This is the Presonus Revelator Dynamic microphone, and I'm so happy that this microphone has come out because I was massively disappointed with the Beacn microphone. Although from a software standpoint it was awesome, the thing just sounded terrible, and I am loving the out-of-the-box sound of the Revelator Dynamic microphone. It's got some awesome features, so you can have like sort of four presets here, which is saved onto a button and a mic, but you can add loads more. We have full fat channels, so you have compressor, EQ, gates, all of that sort of stuff. Plus we also have a headphone mix and two sub mixes as well that we can send to stream output. And again, it's $80 cheaper. It sounds better. You're going to be able to buy this microphone in pretty much every country that Presonus sell in from this month. And it's also got support for Mac OS X as well. So yeah, very happy that this microphone turned up. I was just massively disappointed with the Beacn microphone. Now I'm going to take you through all of the software today. I'm going to show you sort of some of the basic settings that I've been using on this microphone today. I'm going to take you through all of the routing options as well. I'm also going to have some upcoming videos because this is the same software, whether you're using like the IO24 or the Revelator mic or the new IO44 audio interface. But how you can actually combine all of this and extend the routing with the Beacn Mix Create. That's going to be the next video I do, so if you want to see that. But before I show you all of that stuff, we're just going to do a quick test of the Beacn microphone versus the Revelator Dynamic microphone, processed and unprocessed, using both of their built-in DSPs. Whatever it is you seek, you have to put in the time, the practice, the effort. You must give up a lot to get it. It has to be very important to you. And once you have attained it, it is your power. It can't be given away. It resides in you. It is literally the result of your discipline. Whatever it is you seek, you have to put in the time, the practice, the effort. You must give up a lot to get it. It has to be very important to you. And once you have attained it, it is your power. It can't be given away. It resides in you. It is literally the result of your discipline. Whatever it is you seek, you have to put in the time, the practice, the effort. You must give up a lot to get it. It has to be very important to you. And once you have attained it, it is your power. It can't be given away. It resides in you. It is literally the result of your discipline. Whatever it is you seek, you have to put in the time, the practice, the effort. You must give up a lot to get it. It has to be very important to you. And once you have attained it, it is your power. It can't be given away. It resides in you. It is literally the result of your discipline. Okay then, before we take a big dive in the software, I want to talk about, everything that came with it in the box. It's very well packaged. You do get a 2-meter USB-C to USB Type A cable. And you also get a little desktop stand to use it on as well. I'm actually using it on a boom arm today. The only reason I'm not using the desktop stand is my desk vibrates quite a bit because my PC's got a lot of mechanical storage in it. So it does fail the test there at reducing those vibrations with, just a desktop mic and its built-in sort of shock mount, okay? That is almost the worst case scenario. Like I said, I'm a bit old school. I like to have lots of storage and don't really want to shell out for all SSD storage for the YouTube channel. But that really is a worst case scenario there for it. So I'm not going to massively mark it down. I've actually got it on a boom arm today. Now on the microphone as well, you do have a couple of buttons on there as well. Let me just remember what they're called. There is the preset button, which is at the front. So as you can see, as I press it here, these are some predefined presets here. And then this is the one that I've created called YouTube. I'm not really a fan of these presets. There is also the monitor button as well. When you hold the monitor button, you can then adjust the microphone gain to suit that. If you can see that moves, that's just me turning on the knob there, and you can then just adjust the gain there to suit. Now, a couple of extra things that I really like is on the back, there is also like a tripod connection on there as well. And then the two adapters, one is your normal 3.8 to 5.8, and the other one is actually a 3.8, which can plug into a 5.8. But then it also has a tripod connector on there as well. So that's a really nice little touches on the mic. And I think the microphone does just generally look quite good. The pop filter works very well as well, seeming that the capsule is quite far forward. Now, the only discrepancies that I'm having with this from a hardware perspective is that I do find that it's quite noisy. There is, a nice bit of hiss there, even when I'm running the gain down at like 36 dB. That is something that I've got a little bit of a problem with, and it would have been lovely to see a high impedance headphone output put on this as well. I can just about monitor with the DT990s, but I wouldn't want to play games or anything with it. The fact that, you know, that when you've got all this stream stuff going to come through, that you're also going to want to plug your headphones in, that is a big con for me, that you didn't go high impedance mode on this. It would have been something that I would really like to see, because unlike Beacn, you don't have the option to output, you know, gate to another output device. Although obviously you would get latency there from your microphone. Yeah, it's just a little bit annoying that you didn't go with a slightly higher impedance. But at the moment I'm using Sony MDR7506s, which are like 54 or 64 ohm headphones, and there is plenty of power there. Okay, plenty of power. But yeah, it would have been nice to just see a little bit more power when you come around to the second one. So the first thing that we're going to have to do then is we are going to have to set your gain. So you want to be sort of peaking at about minus 10 dB. Now you can hold it here and see where your peaks are. So when I drop that down to 36, maybe we'll just put a little bit, 1 more dB there. That's where I like to sit, just so my voice is coming right in the middle. Now, obviously that's not really enough for OBS, but then you can obviously add in extra gain. You can also add in gain here. So, you know, and you can add in gain here. That should then turn it up a little bit there, as you can see in OBS. And you can hold Alt on this and it recenters it if you just press Alt and click. So that's the first thing, is we're going to need to have a little look at the gain. Okay. Gain set, nice and easy. You don't want too much. Okay. So shall we have a look at all of the effects here? So firstly, there is a bunch of predefined effects that you can have. So like reverb, delay, witness protection, computer on 4000, and then there are all of these broadcast ones. Okay. Now when you click on one, so if I just say broadcast clear and then put it there, then it will switch over to witness protection. But I want it to be YouTube. And I think all of these save to the device as well. If it's like the Revelator IO24, you should just be able to pop this in your bag and take it somewhere else. Okay. Now saving your settings is really easy. You just hit on these what looks like a download button there, and then you can just store it, name it. You can also then save it over to a local preset as well. Useful to have for firmware updates. Just every now and then it goes a little bit crazy. So then you can just at least have all your presets over here. It's weird that they've gone with 8. I mean, it's nice, but it's a bit different, isn't it? Because you can't plug any other microphones into this. So I don't understand why you would need so many custom presets. You know what I mean? Because it's just one mic. On the IO24, I wish it had a few more, because I've got all my mics set up on there exactly how I like to have them. Moving over then, we have the fat channel. So this is a simplified version of it. And if you press it here, this is a extended version of the fat channel. Let's just bring this out a bit more so we get a bit more space in here. And if I just come back here, you do have some predefined stuff, okay, for like gates. You can set different compressors. Now the de-esser, I don't class any of the Revelator products as having a de-esser. And the reason I don't class any of them as having a de-esser is because when you enable this, essentially when you turn this on, this is only going to compress a certain frequency that you set a predefined for where your S's are, but you're also going to lose the full multi-band compressor across the entire audio range. So as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't have a de-esser. So then you've also got EQs that you can set. Now this is actually quite useful. Let me just go to a different profile here. So if I just set a vintage EQ and then come over, you can see it just sort of gives you these predefined settings to work with. So if you're new to all of this stuff, there's some quite cool stuff in here, okay? I'm just going to go back to my normal profile there. You've also then got your phones output, and then you've also got your blend as well. So this is between the mix of how much of your mic and how much of your computer that you want to hear. Before we take a deeper dive into the fat channel, I just want to show you a couple of extra things here. So one is actually called scenes. So once you set everything up, you can save a scene, because the other save presets are only going to save what your audio setting. It's not going to save your mixer settings. So this is also very useful as well. You could create custom scenes for different types of scenarios depending on your routing situations. One of the things that I really love is that you can set an output delay. This is perfect for syncing up audio with cameras, because yes, you can add a delay. As you can see, I've got one here called mic 280 milliseconds in OBS. But the problem is if you use virtual camera. So if you turn that on and then you want to route the audio from OBS, it doesn't apply these millisecond delays. So that's what that microphone is there. So I can then just select one of these and then just put a delay in. Okay. Really useful. I really like that feature. And the fact that you can just customize where you want it to go. Anywho, geeky stuff out of the way. I mean, we're going to get geeky anyway. We're now looking at the fat channel. Okay. So the first thing is we have here, I'm just going to bring this over a little bit so we can see it a little bit more. Okay. So the first thing is you have a high pass filter. General rule of thumb is to set this to 80 Hertz, but if you've got quite a bassy voice, you may well want to set that a little bit higher. And if you've got quite a light voice, you may want that to be a bit lower. Okay. So that's one of the first things that you're going to want to set up. Next up, we have the gate, and it's not the strongest point of the I was going to say IO24 of the Revelator dynamic microphone, or just the Revelator software. So what I prefer to use it is in expander mode. Okay. So you just need to find a sort of frequency of where you want it to expand. So expand is it's just going to take everything under that level and reduce it down when I'm not talking. Okay. So I'll just stop for a second. You'll see it drop. Okay. Now for attack on this, I generally like to go somewhere between 2 and 10 milliseconds, but I do like the release to be on a little bit longer. Now, one thing is the key filter. So what you'll find is when that's off, you will end up hearing some sounds in there that maybe you still hear like a little bit of hiss. It's not quite going to where you want it to be. So I just turn it up until it just cleans out that last little bit of just that sort of, hiss and static when you're not talking. But like I said, this microphone is definitely noisy compared to the Beacn. I will give it that. The preamp is not as good. Okay. But yeah, that's what I set for my expander. So it's going to be somewhere for most people between 50 and 65 dB, I would probably say. If you wanted to test it, you can just do a recording, and then you just need to make sure that the expander is set, lower than your lowest recording point, and then you'll be good to go. Another thing you can test as well is like clacking on your keys and stuff like that to see if those sounds are still coming through when you're not talking. Again, if you've got very noisy key switches, you don't want to dial this threshold up too much because it will do funky stuff, okay? But if you're using like Reds or something, that's quite a good test. Now, the next thing we've got over here is compression and EQ, and you can sort of move these around so you can swap them. I like my compression to come before EQ. Some people like EQ to come before. We're all different in this sort of stuff. Now, we do have multiple compressors in here, and again, when I change it, it resets. So I will show that a little bit more in depth in a second. So if you just click on the compressor here, moving over to the compressor then. Now the goal of a compressor is to take your highest peaks where you're bringing louder and to just reduce it down a little bit, but then at the same time lift the quieter parts of your voice. So it is compressing it and bringing it more in line with each other. I'm never the best at explaining this, but that's how I've always seen a compressor. So what you are setting is a threshold. So anything that goes over a threshold is going to be compressed. 20 dB is a good place to start if you're staying at this minus, 18 to just over -10. That's a really good place to start. Okay. So as you can see here, we've got a little bit of reduction as I talk, but we don't really want it to be going much below this 6 dB mark. Now I do find that certain words, it will make it go higher. So when I say, but, you can see, but, it gets a little bit more, but that's about right, okay, how I want it to be compressed. Now, attack is how quick that compressor is going to engage. I like my compressor to kick in quite quick, okay? So I generally go for somewhere between a 2 and 5 millisecond attack time, but you are also good up to like 25. There is also a auto button here, so you can just have auto attack and release, okay? Now, as for release, again, this is sort of personal preference. I always like somewhere between 100 and 150. And I found with this microphone, I just like it at 150. Now, as for the compression ratio, I always like to just go with 3:1. As long as you set it somewhere between 2 and 4, you're going to find that's going to work for you. And most people would recommend 4, but I just don't think 4 works for my voice. So I generally go with a 3:1 compression ratio. You can then add in makeup gain as well. So I've just added in 4 dB of gain here. You can add as much as you wanted, really, and it doesn't really massively affect the sound, but that's just going to bring it back up to that level after you've done the reduction. Now, the key filter is what I was talking about earlier with the de-esser. So if I set this to like, say 6,000, because that's where my S's are, then that's only going to compress in those areas. Now, there are a couple of other compressors as well. So let's just switch over to a different profile. There is also a tube compressor. This is sort of my favorite one out of the bunch. So the first thing that we just need to do is dial this one up so we're getting that sort of same level of peak reduction here. This is based on an LL2A. So we'll just do that. And then all we're going to do there is then bring the gain up. I always like somewhere between 48 and 52. But from there, you can see the reduction there is probably a little bit too much. So we'll just dial that down a little bit more there. And I find that just gives it a really, really nice, rich, warm sound using this tube compressor. Next up, we have the FET compressor. I don't really use this one that much, so I'm just going to show you that it's there. I always find it just, sometimes it works for me and other times it doesn't, but this is quite a fast compressor that you could be using as well. As you can see, it's not on at the moment. I haven't used it in so long, and so apologies, it's not in this guide. Moving over to, let me get me back to my proper compressor then, so that we were using for this video. So there we go, then we're back on the normal compressor. Now over to EQ, I'm going to have to switch profiles again. So you do have a couple of other EQs. So there's the passive EQ, which again, you can just use to boost certain areas. And then there is also a vintage EQ as well. So if that's the stuff that you're into, you can use those. But I just like the Common or Garden standard EQ, okay? Now, one of the things that you're going to want to do before anything else is you cut before you boost. I wish there was more than 4 that we could do in here. So as you can see here, what you end up doing is you set a tight Q and then you turn the gain up, and then all you do is just sort of sweep until you find a discrepancy in your voice. The annoying thing is there's something that I don't like around here somewhere anyway. You probably want a bit more higher gain, but I prefer, because of out of choice, I will cut the 1K area because I know that I'm a nasally, nosy mouth talker. So I just have to reduce what I can. But ideally here, you don't want to be boosting anything by more than like 4 or 5 dB. You don't want to be doing massive changes in here. So I've just got a little increase in the bottom end. This area here, if I actually dial this one right up, this might be a good example. So if I dial that up and then just tighten the Q, it gets like a really resonant-y tone in here. I don't know if that's capturing it. I've got the headphones down quite low at the moment, but that is somewhere where, for me, I don't really like that area in my voice. And I find that's where it picks up some room resonance. So yeah, generally cut somewhere between like 200 and 250. And that's a good place to start. But again, you might need to boost there. So like I said, always cut before you boost. And this is just a basic little EQ that I've put on the microphone. I haven't been using it long enough to really dial it in yet. But yeah, this is just something that I like to have on most dynamic microphones. If I like the sound of a dynamic microphone, that is generally the curve that I put on over the top. You then also have a limiter that you can turn on as well. So this is going to make sure that you don't peak and go over, but you can also add a limiter in OBS if you want. There is also voice effects. So you've got a bunch of these in here, which I'm just going to stay away from because they're not for me, but they might be for you. So yeah, there's a load of audio stuff in there. We've also got reverb and all of those things as well. Right then, let's have a little look at the audio routing options then. So I'm going to explain to you what all of the inputs and outputs are, what they do, how you set it up with OBS, Teams, Zoom, all of that sort of stuff, Discord. I always have to apologize. I say Zoom and Teams before Discord because I work in IT. And what a crap couple of years it has been working in IT. So there are essentially 3 mixes on here. So this is a main mix. This is my headphone mix. We also have Stream Mix A. This is how we are sending audio into OBS at the moment. And then there is Stream Mix B. Okay. And these on the recording channels. So this, we have mic 1 and 2. So all of that is going to do is send the microphone. Okay. So if we're playing any of these virtual sources, which you'll see in a minute, they will not go to mic 1 and 2, okay? They only work on the stream mixes. So Stream Mix A is this one here. You can see it's really easily, written Stream Mix A and Stream Mix B. And you can see we've got audio coming through on all of those. So to send audio to OBS, to voice chat, whatever you want to do, you have 3 options, okay? So you have playback, virtual output A, and virtual output B. So the moment you can see I've got my playback down here set to playback, okay? Revelator Dynamic Playback. So this is the one that I recommend to use for all of your game sounds, playing anything on a website, for example. So let me just play that now. And you can see we've got audio coming through. I'm just your ghost if we're not undressed. I literally just clicked on the first thing on no copyright sounds, and that was really cheesy. But that's essentially what you do. So playback will end up becoming what I use for games and websites and all of that stuff. Now, virtual output A, I like to use for music. Okay, so now if we play it here, we'll just turn it up. There we go. Then we have audio coming through virtual output A. And to set that, you can do that in the Windows mixer. So as you can see here, I've got Amazon Music set to virtual output A. So that's how we bring it all in. And you can monitor all of this independently, essentially. So you just press on the headphone there, and that will just give you how you sound coming through on each input. So again, you can really adjust this. This is the great thing here. So then, for example, on me, I would want the games a bit louder. You know, maybe I want the games like here. Maybe I don't really want to hear the music that much. And this one, which I'll show you the Discord setup in a second, maybe I want that coming through at full sound. But on the stream mix, we may just say that we only want our games. You know, we don't want it to overpower our mix. We want that there. We want the music a little bit lower, but then we want to bring our guest in and bring the guest in higher. Okay. So that's how you would do that. Okay. So let's have a little look at Discord then. So for Discord, we're using StreamMix B, and we're going to keep everything reduced on here. And the reason we're going to use StreamMix B for Discord, Zoom, and Teams is for a clear reason, because when you're playing with someone, they don't want to hear the game sounds come back in, okay? And they certainly don't, they might not want to hear your music, right? They might not want to hear that on that channel, okay? That might not be for them. So we're just going to keep all of these things down. But, you know, maybe if you were doing a demo with someone, whether it was, you know, like Teams or Zoom, you might want to play an audio recording and stuff, and you can do that. So if we got Discord open, so for Discord on the input devices, and this would be exactly the same for Zoom and Teams. I've got so much stuff in here. Where is it? We've got StreamMix. So we're going to select StreamMix B, Revelator Dynamic microphone, and then we're going to set the output to virtual output B. Okay. So that means we'll bring everything in here from the audio. So for the first one here, so with the playback, we're using that for like games, and we're going to use that for any system audios. Virtual output A, we're going to use for music. So then we'll just set that in the Windows Music. So you can actually rename these down here. So I'll call this virtual output A music, and virtual output B is going to be the Discord, or we'll just call it chat. And that is going to bring all of our chat sounds back into the mixer. Then when we go to StreamMix B, we keep everything muted because we don't want to send them any of that audio. We then have the ability to set levels for everything that we need. This is submixing, and it's not as good as what Beacon's doing, but it's actually enough for about 95% of people out there. For most people out there, this would be more than enough. Okay, but I am going to make that video. And then you obviously got your main mix at the top, so you can set things. The good thing is here, this is where we're doing the StreamMix A as well. Like I said, you can slide this up and you can boost the audio to bring this up to level. It'd probably make more sense to boost the mic here than here, because that's bringing everything up. Okay, so I generally put in a little bit more there, or again, if you wanted to, you could just add in more makeup gain on the compressor. So yeah, I hope all that tutorial stuff's helped. If there's any questions, let me know. I feel like I've done so many of these guides now, I might have just rushed through that a little bit, but yeah, this is exactly the same principles as my Revelator guide. So yeah, if you feel like there might be some bits missing, maybe go and watch some of those extended videos. So which microphone would I recommend you buy over this or the Beacn? 100% I would recommend the Revelator Dynamic microphone. And the reason is, I'll tell you why. Because the software isn't as good as the Beacn microphone. Nowhere near as good. I miss having output devices. The DSP is nowhere near as good as the Beacn microphone. It is missing a high impedance headphone amp like the Beacn microphone, but it does the one thing that the Beacn microphone fails to do, and that is to sound good and to be well priced. The Beacn microphone is $80 more. It sounds boring. It sounds dull. There really is nothing going on with that microphone, especially now we've seen the frequency response. You can't really buy it in that many countries at the moment, which, you know, it's not really their fault. They're a new brand, but that is a factor on your purchasing. You're going to be able to buy this microphone everywhere. You know, it's already got Mac OS X support from day dot. And to be fair, This microphone has more than enough of what you would need. It has a more than adequate DSP, and it sounds so much nicer monitoring this microphone than it does monitoring the Beacn. The Beacn does have latency when you've got that DSP on. It's only so slight, but you literally sound like a freaking robot when you talk into that Beacn microphone. When I'm talking into this now, it sounds just as good as when I'm talking into a dynamic microphone on my IO24. And that is a big compliment to this microphone. I mean, in the UK, it costs £165, and that is fantastic value. Absolutely fantastic value. I just love this microphone, and I think it's going to sell a bundle. But again, I like to know what your thoughts are. We've all got different voices. We've all got different, environments that we use it on. I will be back with some more guides on this. And again, as always, whenever there's firmware updates, if there's a new feature added, I always like to cover that as well. So make sure you subscribe. If you've got any questions, let me know in the comments section. I hope you like this video, and I'll be back with some more videos very soon.